Welcome in another episode of Carpooling with Ben. Today I've got a guest. You're almost on your 1-year anniversary from your first visit to the show.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad you stepped it up with a tie and everything. You look great.
Well, I got fancy. Well, I threw a little pink on.
All right, that's good.
For a couple reasons. First, with the Midnight Basketball, the Providence Recreation Midnight Basketball Championship coming up.
Sure.
To honor the women's division.
Okay, very good.
As also a shout out to my pageant family.
Okay.
As well, and last but not least, but I got a couple friends and family friends that are going through breast cancer, so certainly.
Well, we're coming up to October, which is obviously the big month for that, and so you kind of touched on a bunch of the different things that you're involved with. You really are the Renaissance man of Providence, and all things good and philanthropic and sports. I mean, if they could all if there was one specialty, and to remind people who are watching, your original occupation, you were a sports
and entertainment attorney, agent, representing athletes and entertainers. Right?
And you've done this all across the country, and you've settled in Providence for the past number of years.
Right.
One of the biggest things that you've been part of has been the Midnight Basketball. That whole cornucopia of events and its various forms. This year you did a different take with the Providence League.
Yeah, it was the Providence Recreation Midnight Basketball League. Is the Midnight Basketball League that I'm involved with this year.
Why do they have to play basketball at midnight? Why can't you do it at 11 o'clock in the morning?
Well, actually, we don't play at midnight.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, that's good. I always thought it was way past my bedtime.
Well,
I mean, aside from being only 5'3", I mean,
let me give you a little bit of history on it. Actually, when it first started, and actually when I first became involved, or not involved, but aware of Midnight Basketball in general, was back in the 80s, mid-80s. There was, back in my home state of Maryland, there's a town manager, a guy named Van Sanford, that started a Midnight Basketball League to help cut against crime, to prevent crime, to give some alternatives to people that were not doing right or whatever. But that started in like 1985. He started the league in a small town in Maryland called Glen Arden.
Okay.
He initiated the program, and it actually was during the hours of like 10 p.m.
Okay.
And cutting into midnight and into the wee hours of 1, 2 a.m. or so.
Sure.
Because those were the hours where there was more prone to there to be trouble.
Kids were looking for things
to
do.
And there was
and young men too. I mean,
crime was
sure.
prevalent at the time, drugs as well. So, and it definitely was effective. And from there, in the early 90s, George H.W. Bush started a program called the 1,000 Points of Light, and within that he included Midnight Basketball.
Oh, cool.
In his program. But it really took form in mid-90s when President Clinton implemented a bill, an act called the Crime Act, which is like a $33 billion bill that he implemented, and $40 million of it was earmarked for the Midnight Basketball League.
Oh, wow.
So obviously through the years that's fizzled out though, but that was to give you kind of the level of significance that Midnight Basketball League was thought of during those time periods. That's a pretty big chunk of change to be putting towards a basketball program.
And it's important to understand the history of the league and how it's evolved over the years, because it's not just something that's thrown together. The concept has been there a while, and it takes a lot to maintain it and keep it going.
Right.
You need a lot of volunteers, you need a lot of help, and that pool of volunteers sometimes is high, and sometimes it's not as many. So you take what you can get when it comes to that side of things. But the important thing is the mission's still there. Yeah,
the legacy of Midnight Basketball is major. It's legendary across the country. It picked up in the Providence area in the 90s as well. A guy named Andre Fullen started along with some other people. It was then kind of pushed along also by a a young Lynn Johnson who she's with the Department of Recreation now, and she runs a women's league for the Department of Recreation, as well as a young Mike Stevens, who is now the Director of Recreation for...
You keep throwing the word young out there a lot.
But I'm going to say that to say this. Lynn Johnson is still young, but not so much for Mike Stevens.
All right. Well, I was wondering where you were going with that. I'm like, you're throwing out the compliments left and right here. It's an ageless craft. I like it. No, but it really is, and perhaps maybe we're touching to something here, kind of unknowingly. You're affecting young lives, and these young men and women that get involved with the league keep the organizers young, and keep that's why you only look like you're 23, 24 now. It's your birthday coming up soon, right? You'll be legally able to rent a car soon. Congratulations, 25 years old.
I appreciate that.
So we've got that going on. Another thing that you are very much involved with, which goes right through the wintertime, is WaterFire. You've been involved with that organization for some time now, and so talk to me about what you do with them.
Well, WaterFire, I'm a board member with WaterFire, and it's a program that I initially got involved with because I brought some former Providence College basketball players to an event. I was aware of WaterFire. They happened to be in town, and I wanted to take them to a WaterFire event. It worked out nicely, had a good time, and from that point on, I bonded well with Barnaby Evans and Brawin and Peter Mello, to operate WaterFire, and they eventually asked me to be a board member, which I quickly said yes to. Sure. But I think it's a program that is major in Rhode Island. I mean, when you think of one of the gems of Rhode Island, you have to put WaterFire at the top of the list. Yeah. But at times too, I think it's a underappreciated program too as well. Sure. But it's certainly something that people really gravitate towards in a huge way. It's a safe environment. Yeah. It's a safe event. It's a good time. And you see people of all walks of life, all sorts of diversity attending WaterFire. It's a great time out for sure.
That's great. And they have lightings in various forms, whether it's just smaller or full scale.
Yeah, sometimes they have just the basin lighting, which is a smaller one, or then they have the full lighting, and sometimes they go all out with for the breast cancer, for the Gemma family, events like that where they really light up the whole city pretty much.
Sure. Yeah. Well, those can all be found online. They're scheduled.
Right, you can go through WaterFire on Facebook. WaterFire is very involved social media-wise.
Absolutely. You can actually download the soundtrack for.
You could do that as well.
Listen to.
I take it you do that?
Yes, that's usually when I have to light the grill. I put that music on as I'm lighting the grill to grill up a burger or something.
Right.
It just sets the mood with the. Well, okay. I'm lighting.
Where are we, by the way?
I have no idea where we are. Yeah, I have no idea where we are. The people around are just getting nervous. They're like, "There's a car driving slow with cameras."
Well, I'm getting nervous too because I don't know where you're taking me. But in case I have to jump out and run and make a run for it,
you've got your phone on. You've got Siri. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Yeah, I'm sure.
The another thing that you do, and people may not realize this is a really cool thing, is you're an educator, and
right.
you've taught at local colleges, and more than just teaching at the schools, you teach and you coach young men and women beyond the classroom, and through mentoring and doing what you do through all these different things. The last time we had you here, we were talking, we got off on a tangent. It was towards the end of the episode. And I want to touch back on that real quick because in case people are watching, you offered some sound advice to them last year. And I mean, I'd love you to, when you meet somebody who thinks, oh yeah, I'm just going to go for it, just go sports all in. I mean, now, especially
right.
with the start of the new school year, what
right.
do you say to them?
Well, one of the things I emphasize to, and it doesn't matter what age group that I'm talking to, whether it's a young kid, and I'd like to get their mind going as soon as possible in terms of thinking about a profession. I mean, obviously they got a long time period where they can change it, but at least to get into that mindset of thinking about what are you going to do when you're older, when you're more mature. But I've represented a number of athletes and entertainers, and to be blessed to be an actual professional athlete in the NFL, NBA, whatever professional level,
Sure.
Is one thing. To have any sort of longevity in a professional sports is a whole nother thing, because the average career span is only a few years, if you get there.
Right.
If you get there. To get there is a major accomplishment in and of itself, but I try to encourage, I don't discourage a young person or even a more grown individual too to not pursue professional sports. I certainly encourage them to do so, and I help them get to that level as best as possible. But I do also encourage them to have a backup plan, that you still can be at that top level. You can still be in the arena, you can still be at the championship game, you can still be at the Super Bowl, but there's other career paths that you can take, whether it's being an owner, whether it's being a general manager, whether it's being a media person.
We talked about our friend Rob Crane, who's done very well in professional sports.
Right, absolutely.
And he's the general sales manager over at the Pawtucket Red Sox.
At the Paw Sox, right.
It's
another great example that I use. In fact, I have him come into my class and speak, and he does an amazing job speaking to the students. It's Mike Stevens,
okay.
who actually is the director of recreation for Providence.
Okay.
But also Mike Stevens is the top NCAA men's basketball referee. And for the past few years, he has been on that same court for the NCAA men's championship game.
That's the big one.
As everybody else.
When they're cutting down the net.
Right. He's right there too. Sometimes he's even been there. You see him in a photo calling a 3-point shot.
Wow. That's
been a game winner or something like that. So I mean, you can still be at that top level, be in that arena, but you don't have to be the player.
Okay.
But
I think
so I try to encourage students to have a backup plan, to get the education, develop internships, start thinking of different careers in the sports industry. The sports industry is so wide in terms of career opportunities and possibilities.
Sure. Even a person like me who played an accordion can have his toes
let's
in
not
the
get
water.
carried away. There are some limitations.
I'm the announcer. I mean, come on. I can do that. I can read words off of paper.
Well,
I'm pretty good at it, I think.
I certainly won't discourage you, but I would caution you.
I've only got, it's fun. You sit there, read the words, you get a meal. It's cool. It's great, I like it. It's a good time.
You've set the bar in what you do as it is.
Right. Well,
stick in that zone.
I've set the bar as high as I could possibly set it without a ladder. So just remember that, kids, and so can you. So,
all right.
Sean, if people want to get a hold of you or get involved with any of the endeavors, they can find you online, right?
Absolutely. They can find me online. They can find me on social media. I'm accessible. Absolutely.
And more importantly, you're willing to help those that are willing to put in the work and the time.
Very willing. Very willing. Definitely. I encourage people to reach out to me if there's any way I can help as a resource. Please, by all means, do seek me out.
Absolutely. And it's important to note that you don't always show up with a suit and tie. I've seen you wear a polo shirt. I've seen you wear a polo shirt. Maybe what is this?
I got a gift for you.
Oh, I've never had a basketball jersey. Oh, what is that? Does that mean I can play on the court?
It means you can wear the jersey on the court.
Oh, yes!
I don't know if we'll let you play.
Oh, that's all right. I can bring out water or something, maybe. Thank you so much. I've got a gift for you. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest edition of Because Your Mommy Does CrossFit. There you go, sir.
That's who are those guys back there?
Well, the Nick, Ron, and Pete.
They're
sports fanatics too, absolutely. So enjoy the book. It'll be a good read for you.
Absolutely will.
It took me all of 90 minutes, right?
Who's on the cover? A friend of yours?
Kristen Rabchak drew everything in there. I only wrote the story. Kristen Rabchak did all the drawing. She's the talented one. I just, came up with the idea and threw it on paper. So, well, Sean, thank you so much.
Always
a pleasure to have you here, and thanks so much for all your investment that you've put into the city and the youth, and and the statewide. It's great.
I appreciate that. Thank you.